I'm going to do a quick overview of the political power minigames for Switzerland. The most annoying thing about Switzerland is you start out with 3 advisors and you can't fire these guys. The minigame portion of this comes in where each year you elect a new president and you elect one of these 3 guys, and that's your method of removing them. That makes this process very slow since you can only switch out one per year. So the most important thing is to know where you're going. So for example, looking at the focus tree on the left side over here, looking at some of these, you see less than 60% support for Federal Assembly and less than 15% support for FB. Federal Assembly is the Democratic Party and FB is the Fascist Party. So this side is more or less the unaligned, where you could get there with a lot of communist support. It's pretty powerful when you start forming the Alpine Protectorate, getting these focuses completed, give you a nice powerful nation. On the other side, over here we have the fascist tree, and you can see you need more than 70% support for the fascist party on this one. The Democratic area is in through here. So these guys, you see you need a lot of support for the Federal Assembly. On these, you also see where it's talking about the balance of power has to be somewhere on the range. That hasn't kicked in quite yet. We'll talk about that when it does. So with that in mind, you need to kind of choose where you want to go in this tree, because aligning the political party percentages is going to be slow. The first one is Swiss guiding principles. We have to take that. So I'm going to take that and just run through till we have some events. Now that Swiss guiding principles has completed, the next portion of this political system for Switzerland has been added, and that would be the balance of power here. Going back to the national focus tree, we'll put this to the side for the second. So going back to the national focus tree, you can see there's a lot of gatekeepers where the balance of power has to be so far to one side or the other. So where you want to go is going to depend upon what you choose right off the bat here. So if I want to go towards the unaligned and get the Alpine Protectorate, we're going to need the balance of power to go to the left of the strong Continental. And looking here, you start out all the way on the cantons, and we're going to need it to go over here to go the Alpine Protectorate. And you can see the nice tooltips telling you what bonuses each range gives you. So if we want to go all the way to the left, that means I want to choose this middle one or the bottom one, depending upon whether or not we want to change the political parties. If you're trying to get in league with the Allies, you choose the middle one. If I'm going unaligned, I'm going to take this one. So after taking that decision with the balance of power to decrease it by 0.10% per day, if you hover over the balance of power, you can see that in the tooltip. You can also see that it's gone from 100% to 99%. If you click on the balance of power to open up that window, There are other decisions you can take using political power to move the scale. The one thing to note is they're all active for 30 days or longer. That's why you want to decide where you want to go in the focus tree. That way you can start spending political power on some of these cheaper operations and get the scale moving in the direction you want. This is the pop-up for the first election, and here you can see we can elect one of these three people. The traits you see in the tooltip are what happens while they're the president. You can see the top line, unlocks decision, Swiss Democratic Tradition Campaign. That will be unique to each advisor as their president. There's one that I'm going to point out that you want to get in for an extra research slot. Looking over these guys, they're all exactly the same in the president role. However, if you come look at their advisory stats, you can see that the two that are on each end give you political power gain, and the middle one does not. So, with that in mind, I'm going to remove the middle one because I want the extra political power, and he also increases the Democratic support more than the others. Let's see, that's Albert. Yes, one thing to note is that their listing on the pop-up is not the same as their listing in the political menu. So let's get Albert out. And now you can see that that opened up a political advisor spot. One thing to note, when that happens, you start this countdown timer under events and decisions. I'm going to let it run through so we can go over what happens, but you don't want to let this happen because right now the new political advisor is free, and that is a result of full continental power. That will change as you take it further to the left. But let's finish letting this run down. And one thing to note while we're over here, the Swiss Democratic Tradition Campaign is because of the person we elected president. You can also use these options to switch out people, but they are really expensive. So now we have this advisor that popped up, and you can see that he is a huge hit on political power gain. So once he's here, you can switch him out, and it's not a big deal because our balance of power is all the way to the right. If we're all the way to the left and we had to pay political power to get a new advisor, you might get in a position where you get one of these guys and they're sucking your political power and you can't get enough to get a new one. So it's important to make sure you always have 150 political power available when you get further into this game. So the one guy that I want to point out from the advisors available is the weapons designer. If you look at the bottom of the tooltip, it says when promoted to Confederation President will unlock decision expand arms industry, which grants an extra research slot. So that is how you get your extra research slot. And yep, put them in place. So then the next time I elect a president, it'll be him, and then I'm going to get my extra research slot from it'll be this decision will change, and I'll select that. So this annoying process will stay in place until you make it down to specific places within the focus tree. Let's see, is this it? Oh, no. Oh, I know that this one's the one, centralized Switzerland. We look at the tooltip, it says under effect, couple lines, 4 lines down, public elections will not be held. And at that point, the advisors become as you would expect. And those are peppered out through here. Another thing to note is when dealing with the army, right now, if you look here, I can train these guys, but I can't make a custom division because it's all locked down. So if you want that unlocked, you need to get to certain points within the focus tree. And what you're looking for is in the tooltip, towards the bottom, it has a paragraph where it says all Swiss citizen militia divisions will become regular infantry divisions. That's when you'll be able to edit your army divisions. The one over here on the fascist side, it's down here. And that is a good overview of that system. The other one I haven't unlocked yet, so we'll forward to that. Once you fortify the border with either France, Germany, or Italy, the last annoying Switzerland mini game is going to pop. Under events and decisions, you can see that we now have a section called absolute neutrality. And once I let the game run, you can see we got some more options. If you look at the tooltips for these, you can see how it's going to modify different countries' opinions of Switzerland. As we go on further, there'll be more options. But the one thing to note is, in addition to those listed, you can also do the old traditional method of just improving relations with those countries around you. And now go back, let it run, and you can see that those are all increasing as you would expect from improved relations. And that's a little rundown of the systems that make Switzerland unique, and in my opinion also quite annoying.